Most people don't realize they're slowly shaping their lives through the way they think each day, not through big decisions, but through small, repeated interpretations. This is a story of someone who didn't change her life overnight, but changed the way she saw it, and everything followed. Elena was 58, a former literature teacher who had once been loved by her students. Her life used to feel clear and stable. She had work, a family, and a reason to wake up each day. Then things changed. She retired. Her husband passed away after a short illness. Her only daughter moved abroad. Now, Elena lived alone in her old house. Nothing seemed seriously wrong. She had enough to live on. But deep down, she felt something was missing, like her life no longer had a clear purpose. Elena didn't break down or cry often. Instead, her negativity showed up quietly, in the way she interpreted small things every day. If the weather was nice, she would think it wouldn't last. When her daughter texted, she assumed it was just out of obligation. If a neighbor invited her over, she believed they were only being polite. Even when a plant in her garden started to fade, she would say to herself, "Everything ends anyway." These thoughts repeated so often they felt like truth. To Elena, this wasn't negativity. It was simply being realistic, a way to avoid disappointment before it arrived. This mindset didn't appear overnight. Even when her husband was alive, Elena had a habit of preparing for the worst, believing it would hurt less if things went wrong. Back then, his presence softened that habit, often pulling her back before it went too far. But after he was gone, that quiet defense grew stronger. She no longer saw it as pessimism, but as clarity. In her mind, expecting less was safer. What she didn't realize was that this way of thinking wasn't protecting her anymore. It was slowly closing her off from the life still around her. One afternoon, while cleaning an old cabinet that had belonged to her husband, Elena found a small envelope tucked inside a book. On the front, in his familiar handwriting, it read, "For Elena, on the day you forget how much light you still carry." She paused before opening it. Inside was a letter he must have written years ago, during a time she barely remembered. He wrote that he knew she often expected the worst, not because she was weak, but because she was afraid of losing what she loved. Then one line made her stop. "One day, your fear of losing joy may make you stop noticing it while it is still here." After reading the letter, a memory surfaced. The last time she spoke to her daughter on video, her daughter had shared some happy news: she was pregnant. But Elena's first response hadn't been joy. She had warned her to be careful, to not celebrate too soon, to expect uncertainty. At the time, it felt like concern. Now, it felt different. She remembered the brief silence on the other side of the screen, the forced smile that followed. And for the first time, Elena saw it clearly: her fear hadn't just shaped her own life. It had quietly reached into her daughter's, too. Elena didn't try to become a positive person overnight. Instead, she made one simple decision: she would no longer automatically believe the worst thought in her mind. When something negative appeared, she paused. She didn't argue with it, but she didn't follow it either. If she thought, "Something will go wrong," she would gently ask herself, "Is that true, or just familiar?" Sometimes, she chose silence instead of speaking fear out loud. It was a small shift, almost invisible, but for the first time, her thoughts were no longer in complete control. A few weeks later, Elena called her daughter again. This time, she spoke differently. She didn't warn or predict. She simply said, "I'm sorry. I think I've been speaking to your future through my fears." There was a long pause, then her daughter began to cry. What she said next stayed with Elena. For months, she had felt distant, not because of the distance between countries, but because every time she shared something good, it felt like it would be turned into something to worry about. "I stopped telling you happy things," she admitted, "because I always ended up feeling afraid." In that moment, Elena understood: her thoughts had never stayed inside her. After that, Elena began to change in quiet, practical ways. She spent time in her garden again, caring for the plants she had once ignored. She picked up her books, slowly returning to the habit of reading. On weekends, she offered to tutor a few children nearby, just for something to do. She called her daughter not to warn, but to listen. One morning, she noticed a small green shoot on a plant she thought had died. And later that week, her daughter called first, just to share something happy. Elena realized nothing around her had suddenly become perfect. She still had moments of doubt, still felt the absence of her husband. But something had shifted. She was no longer feeding every fearful thought. And in that quiet space, life, unchanged on the outside, began to feel different again. The small changes in Elena's life didn't make everything perfect, but they changed how she experienced each day. She still missed her husband, and she still had worries. But now, she could see the difference. Positive thinking is not about denying reality, but choosing how you respond to it. Because the way you think, again and again, will shape what you see, what you feel, and how you live. And in the end, that choice quietly becomes your life. If this story made you pause and reflect, share it with someone who might need it. And subscribe for more stories that may change the way you see your life.